First, the vendor needs to sign up by providing their email ID and phone number through the registration form on the portal. Once the registration is successfully submitted, the system will generate the vendor's login credentials. The username and password will be sent to the vendor's registered email address. These credentials can be used to log into the portal for the first time, after which additional verification, such as an OTP, one-time password, may be required for enhanced security. After receiving the login credentials via email, the vendor must verify their email ID. A verification link will be sent to the registered email address, and the vendor must click on this link to complete the verification process. Once the email is successfully verified, the vendor can use the provided credentials to log in to the portal. For added security, the login process an OTP, which will be sent to the vendor's registered email ID. Once logged in, the vendor needs to complete their profile by entering all the required details. This includes vendor address. The vendor must provide their physical business address. Communication details. This includes contact information such as phone numbers, email addresses, and any other relevant communication channels. Statutory details. The vendor is required to submit important statutory documents such as GST, goods and services tax, documents, and PAN, permanent account number, documents, to ensure compliance with tax regulations. Compliance details. The vendor needs to upload compliance-related documents, including NDA, non-disclosure agreement, COC, code of conduct, and RPD, risk and performance disclosure, to demonstrate adherence to organizational policies and regulatory requirements. Bank details. The vendor must provide their bank account details for payment processing, such as account number, bank name, and branch information. Financial details. Optional, the vendor may choose to provide additional financial information, such as financial statements or annual turnover, though this is optional. Finally, the vendor must provide the Hitachi contact team details. This includes the contact information for the person or team within the vendor's organization that will liaise with the Hitachi team for further communications. Once the vendor has submitted all the required details, the information will be sent to the Hitachi portal for review and approval. During this process, the vendor will receive an email confirmation containing a ticket ID for tracking purposes. This email will also provide updates on the pending approval status, indicating which stage of the approval workflow the submission is currently in. The vendor can use the ticket ID to monitor the status of their submission, ensuring transparency throughout the approval process. Any changes to the approval status will be communicated through email notifications, keeping the vendor informed of progress and any necessary actions. There are three main levels of approval: VCT, Japan, and MRT. VCT Team Approval. The VCT, Vendor Compliance Team, is responsible for reviewing the vendor details submitted during the registration process. Their tasks include entering the vendor type. The VCT team categorizes the vendor based on their business type, which helps in the vendor management process. Selecting the vendor account manager. The VCT team assigns a dedicated vendor account manager, VM, who will be the main point of contact for the vendor throughout the relationship. Performing the MK denial check. The VCT team conducts MK denial check to ensure that the vendor does not have any issues or restrictions that would prevent them from engaging in business with a company. Uploading the MK denial file. Once the MK denial check is complete, the VCT team uploads the relevant MK denial file into the system to document the results and ensure compliance. The VCT team's role is crucial in ensuring that all the vendor information is correct and meets the necessary compliance standards before it moves forward in the approval process. Once the VCT team approves the vendor, the request will move to the Japan level. The vendor will receive an email notification confirming the VCT approval. If the VCT rejects the vendor, they will receive a notification with a reason for rejection, and the vendor will need to resubmit the details accordingly. At the Japan approval level, there are two possible outcomes: approval or rejection. If Japan approves the vendor's data will be forwarded to the ERP system, where a unique vendor code will be generated for the corresponding user. This vendor code will be used for all future transactions and references within the system. If Japan rejects the vendor, the request will not proceed to ERP. Instead, it will be escalated to the next level of approval, the MRT team, for further evaluation and decision-making. There is also a PO audit log, which tracks and records all purchase order, PO, transactions. This log provides a detailed history of each transaction, including the creation, modification, approval, and rejection processes, allowing for full transparency and accountability. It serves as an essential tool for monitoring PO activities and ensuring compliance with internal policies. The MRT team follows a similar process as Japan. If MRT approves the vendor's data will be sent to the ERP system, and a unique vendor code will be generated for the corresponding user, completing the approval process. If MRT rejects the vendor's details will be sent back for reevaluation. The vendor will need to reassess and update the necessary information based on the feedback or issues identified, and then resubmit the details for further review. Once Japan or MRT approves the vendor, they can log in again to view PO details, ledger data, create subvendors, etc. After approval, the vendor will log in to the portal using credentials and OTP. Here, the vendor can view the purchase order history and set the expected delivery date. There are 4 levels of approval: Purchase Head, Finance Head, CFO, Chief Financial Officer, Banking Head. CFO approval is required only if the vendor's advance amount exceeds 10 lakhs. And vendor can view ledger data details. When the vendor clicks on Master Data, they can review and update their vendor details if required. However, after any updates, the changes will go through 3 levels of approval again. During new registration, the vendor can create a subvendor. Japan approval is required only for the subvendor. In the Upload Invoice section, the vendor can upload multiple documents related to the invoice, such as the invoice file, delivery challan, and supporting documents. The vendor can also set the expected delivery date for each invoice. Once the documents are uploaded and delivery dates are set, the submission will go through the corresponding levels of approvals. In the View Invoice section, the vendor can view all submitted invoices along with their current status in the approval workflow. This includes details such as invoice number, submission date, delivery date, approval status at each level, and any remarks or comments provided by the approvers. On the admin side, the admin has full control over both users and vendors. In this section, the admin can add new users, edit existing user details, review user and vendor profiles, block or unblock users and vendors, assign roles or permissions. This functionality ensures that the admin can efficiently manage access, maintain data accuracy, and enforce user-related policies within the system. In the vendor management section, the admin can view all vendor details, review individual vendor profiles, and search for vendors using various filters or criteria.